Welcome back to Stella Overboard, and welcome back to the boatyard. What we thought was going to be a quick haul out for some basic maintenance has quickly turned into what feels like a full refit. From sanding the hull, to painting, to dropping the rudder out and installing through hulls and a cutless bearing, we've basically touched every part of this boat. But honestly, we're doing it properly because of where we're headed next. We're about to sail to rural Indonesia. Remote islands, surf breaks, and places where there are no boatyards, no spare parts, and definitely no quick fixes to something that goes wrong. So before we leave, we want to make sure Stella is as ready as can be. And today, that means tackling one of the most important jobs on any sailboat, antifouling the hull. This video was made in collaboration with International Yacht Paint, an AkzoNobel brand, and today, we're applying Micron 99 antifoul to Stella's hull. Micron 99 is a professional use antifoul system, and we've had guidance from the technical team at AkzoNobel to make sure we applied it properly. But before we get to painting, there is one very important step that we need to do first: sanding the hull. And it might sound easier than it is, but this is going to be around a 4-day job. Surface prep is everything when it comes to antifoul. If this hull isn't properly prepared, the paint won't bond the way it's designed to. So the plan is to go over the entire hull, sanding everything down and getting the surface ready for the first coat. And once that's done, we'll clean off everything, wipe down the hull, tape up the paint line, and start rolling on the primer first. And honestly, watching the hull change colors is one of the most satisfying parts of the whole job. Anyway, let's get to sanding.
As you can see, we are wearing a proper PPE today because this stuff gets everywhere and it's really, really itchy. So we have these sexy outfits on. We have 2 sanders. Our goal is to get half the boat on this side done. If we're doing really good, we'll get more. If we're doing really slow, we'll get less. But it's our first day, so take it as it comes.
Righto, we're prepping the surface of our old antifoul, grinding it back to gel coat, prepping for the new Micron 99 paint, which we're going to get, so we're super excited. Lots of work, but we're getting there.
It's been 2.5 hours of nonstop sanding, blue paint everywhere.
Antifoul.
Antifoul, which is not good to breathe in or get on your skin. It's really itchy. So that's how it's been going.
Yeah, just tacking along bit by bit. We're taking off the big part of the grime and the old antifoul back to primer, and some spots back to gel coat.
Your boat has about like 3 layers of antifoul, 4 layers around. And what antifoul does is it is a protectant against like oysters and growth and seaweed and all that stuff that wants to attach to your boat. So when you have good antifoul, like you won't have barnacles and all this like, you know, underneath growth.
They still grow on it, but you can easily get them off. Just it's paint that dissolves into the water. But
so what we're doing is we're sanding back the old antifoul because one, it was done really poorly. Like there's all these horrible patches and it just looks like whoever did it did not care, and we care. So, and then gel coat is your base. So you have the fiberglass, which your boat is made out of. Then over that, you have the gel coat. And then over that, you have about
primer, 2 layers of primer, and then antifoul.
Antifoul. So we've got to smooth that to the point.
We're sanding it back to the primer layer, and then once we get our paints, we'll put 2 layers of primer on it.
Yeah.
And then we'll do 3-4 layers of antifoul, but we're pretty much giving the boat a fresh start instead of...
And we're getting like this incredible antifoul paint, and we just really want to like put it on right, use it correctly, have the boat properly done. And I mean, Stella's our world, so we want to do this, you know.
She's getting a birthday.
She's getting a big birthday present. Yeah, and we got to tape up that line, and we're redoing the line.
Bitch as well.
So right now we are taping our water line. That way we know where to paint to and also sand to. So we got to sand the higher level, and then we're also going to paint up here, so we don't want to paint onto our line. And yeah, we got to do the whole boat. And right now it's probably 100 degrees. So we're standing on the shady side, but not too bad.
We've used some micro balloons to do some fill-ins of low points on the hull. So I'm just sanding them back. Then we're going to put the epoxy on it and then let that cure. And then we should be ready to go to wash the hull and prep it for the paints.
So this is before, and then now it's gonna sand it. Micro balloon is basically a lightweight filler that you mix with epoxy to create a kind of paste or paint. Once it cures, you can sand and smooth over the surface. So if you have any deep cuts or abrasions on the boat, it's good to put there so that you can have a nice smooth finish. And as you can see, these were big divots in our boat before, like some big chunks, maybe fishing line or something took out, and now it's smooth as can be because of micro ballooning. Good morning. It's day 11 on the hard stand. It's, 6:30 a.m.? And we're gonna start prepping our boat in the dark because paint dries quick in the sun. So we're gonna get it going right now. Right now, Jesse is cleaning the boat with thinner. Right now, Jesse and I are wiping down the hull with acetone and making sure everything is perfectly clean and smooth before we start painting. This step is super important because if any dust or grease or residue gets left on the hull, it can affect how well the coatings bond. I like to start work pretty early out here, usually around 6 in the morning, because once the sun comes up, it gets really hot in the boatyard. By around 7:30, the heat is already kicking in.
All right, it is day 1 of painting our boat. We've got our primer all mixed up, PPE on, and we're about to start whacking on our Primocon. Super excited, can't wait to see how this looks.
Now we're applying Primocon primer from International Yacht Paint, which creates a protective barrier and helps the antifouling adhere properly to the hull. Since we're using international coating system, the primer and the antifoul are designed to work together to give a long-term protection below the waterline. So the plan is to put our first primer on, then once that's dry, do another layer of primer, and then move on to the antifoul. So let's get this paint on.
First layer of Primocon on. This is just one layer of our primer. So we're gonna do another layer in about 3 to 4 hours. And then once that's all dry, paint.
Good morning. It's about 7 a.m. I gotta start painting. Jess is in Australia right now, picking up surfboards. So I have to do the second layer of primer right now. So come enjoy painting with me.
We're super excited to be partnering up with AkzoNobel. They've teed us up with Micron 99 International Antifoul paint, and today's the first day we're licking on a few layers onto a beautiful Stella. So we're super excited and very thankful to AkzoNobel for everything they've given to us, and we can't wait to see the final result.
When we hauled out, we had the boat pressure washed, and then we did about
4
34
days.
days.
Standing back to gel coat and primer.
Yeah, we used about 80 grit to 60 grit on that.
So we're using the Primocon, which we've already put on, as a barrier coat between the old layers and the new antifoul that we're going to put on. The curing time on it was real quick as we're in 35 degrees here.
Because it is 35 degrees here, which is like 95 Celsius or Fahrenheit, 95 Fahrenheit, we have thinner. So we put a little bit of thinner, about
5 to 10%.
5-10%, depending on what time. It is like 7 in the morning and the sun just cracked on. So we're gonna crack this on before it gets too hot. But even if it was even hotter, we would just put some more thinner in it. We got 2 10 liters. This was a 4 liter, and we used 2 of those to prime on. But let's get going. First things first though, safety. So let's get our safety gear on. I love these outfits. And we got some incredibly cute outfits from AkzoNobel for the first time in a year.
Yeah.
So now, gloves, masks, and safety glasses. And of course, we're gonna be putting our hoods up so we don't get our hair. Let's get to painting. You can see the difference.
Alright, so we've whipped on our first layer of the Micron 99 antifoul paint. Absolutely amazing. The final product, when it gets tacky dry, is super good. So I can only imagine how much better it's going to be once we've whacked on 4 or 5 layers of this, but so far it's absolutely amazing. And excited to put the rest on this evening. We're going to wait for about 6 hours for it to dry, and then once it's dried, whack on another layer, and we'll keep doing that until we've used up all the paint, pretty much. So.
And yes, you heard Jesse correctly. We are applying 4 to 5 coats of anti-foul to make sure this hull is protected as much as possible. Since we're heading into warm tropical waters where marine growth can build really quickly, applying multiple coats creates a super strong, durable barrier that keeps the hull protected and performing well, which means we won't have to haul Stella out again for quite some time.
Righto, last little touch-ups now that the boat's in the slings. All the patches with the stilts are getting patched up. We're doing 3 last layers. Super stoked on how everything's turned out. The boat looks absolutely amazing, and the paint feels like an absolute tank. So I got a feeling we're gonna have many years of joy.
Go.
All right, after 5 layers of awesome painting, it's finally dry and we're ready to take off the waterline. We're super excited. Everything should be ready to go for tomorrow morning. I'm super happy about the waterline. Everything is looking amazing. And hopefully this will keep us in the water for the next few years.
And there's honestly nothing more satisfying than peeling off that paint line tape. Look at Stella shine. And revealing the freshly painted hull underneath. As you can see, the finish looks incredible. We're really happy with how it came out, and it feels really good to finally see all the hard work pay off. Using international coating systems like Primocon Primer and Micron 99 has really given us a solid base of protection before we head back into the water and crossing to Indonesia. So stay tuned for Stella's big splash day and our big expedition. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I can't wait to see you all in Indonesia.